We have come now to chapter 7, the prophetic vision of the four beasts. I recommend for you to read Daniel chapter 7, verse 1 to 8, and verse 15 to 25, in order to understand better the meaning of that wonderful vision with its explanation. Starting in chapter 7, verse 1 to 8, and verse 17, we read actually the vision by night that Daniel had while he was still under the kingdom of Babylon. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. Winds, according to Jeremiah 49, 36 and 37, points to strife, wars, and conflicts. And four great beasts came up from the sea. Revelation 17:15 described the water or the sea as people, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. And finally, in verse 17, we get the definition of those beasts, which are 4, and they are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth. They shall arise out of the earth. Now, the historical application is the lion points to Babylon. Actually, what the historical application is done with lining up with the statute of Nebuchadnezzar, the great image in chapter 2. So the lion is Babylon, the bear is Medo-Persia, with the 3 ribs as Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt, because Medo-Persia took over the kingdom of Babylon. And we have the leopard, which is Greece, and the 4 head. And of course, the leopard points to Alexander the Great, which was actually the leader and the one who conquered the world at a very young age. But after his death, which also occurred at a very young age, his 4 generals took over, which could be represented by the 4 head and the 4 wings, and also represent the speed with which Alexander the Great had conquered the world. The 4 generals were Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. As for the fierce beast, it points to Rome, exactly in line with what we saw in the image of Nebuchadnezzar, and the 10 horns would be the divided kingdom. Notice that these 4 animals are unclean animals. Notice also that in chapter 7, verse 26 of the book of Daniel, we are told that the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion. We're talking about the little horn here. And it says, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. This is talking about an executive judgment against the fierce beast that has now had 10 horns, of which it was left one horn, which was a terrible horn, and it has the eyes of a man, and it was represented here as unclean animals. The executive judgment, which points to the executive judgment of the wicked. This is the historical application that we have been taught regarding Daniel 7 and the 4 beasts. Regarding the 4 beasts of Daniel 7, let's take into consideration verse 17 again. These great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth. According to this interpretation, these 4 beasts are 4 kings which shall arise out of the earth. Notice something very interesting. In the book of Daniel chapter 7, which we read, it says in verse 1, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream. If Daniel had a dream and a vision in the first year of Belshazzar, which was the king of Babylon at the time, why are we told that those great beasts, which are 4 kings, shall arise out of the earth? Babylon had already arisen, and actually Belshazzar only had about 12 more years to reign, and Medo-Persia took over. And we know that Babylon had already reigned for quite a long time, but now it was to be replaced by the kingdom of the Medo-Persia. It's just a thought, but I would like to be given the opportunity here to present to you a present day application of the 4 beasts of Daniel 7. It is not unique. Other people have brought it up, but what's unique about it is the approach that is made regarding the Holy Roman Empire, which is supposed to appear after we have seen the first Holy Roman Empire, or the first supremacy of the Pope, if you may call it. And this is the proposal that I would present here, having to do with the 4th Holy Roman Empire, or the 4th Reich. So please bear with me as I present to you this present day application, and then you can judge for yourself if it has value or not. Being that we're told that those 4 beasts, which are 4 kings, are to arise, shall arise out of the earth. So that means they're in the future. And yet Babylon has always been represented by the lion in this particular explanation of chapter 7. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. Revelation 13, verse 2. Revelation 13, verse 2 is the verse that I am using here to show you a present-day application of the 4 beasts of Daniel 7. Why am I doing this? It's because Revelation 13, verse 2 points to the second papal supremacy of the Pope, or the 4th Holy Roman Empire, the 4th Reich. Bear with me. As we look first into the chart which I present to you right now, and if you follow me carefully, you will not get confused. It's simply presenting another approach to those 4 beasts coming from the bottom. Rather than starting with the lion, we will be starting now with the beast, the terrible beast, the one that we saw, the fierce beast with the 10 horns, same beast, and she has 10 horns, but it's coming now from starting from that beast, and we're going to go backward back to the lion. So bear with me, because it says that. Look at the scripture. It says, John saw a beast that was like a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth the mouth of a lion. So it's exactly the same four beasts that Daniel saw, but now it's John who sees it. Don't get confused. I just did confuse a little bit between John and Daniel, but we know that the book of Daniel, basically when you finish with chapter 12, you need to go to chapter 13 of Revelation, and you will find actually the solution of the book of Daniel on a present day application. Therefore, I will start on the chart with the left column, the Holy Roman Empire, which was first established in 800 AD. This was actually the first king who established that Holy Roman Empire. He was German, and we will find out in a minute who and where does he stand in that description. So we have under the Holy Roman Empire, we have actually a first, second, third, and fourth king, which is the first step that we take on that chart. Just read the first line from the left to the right, and you will see that it fits perfectly. The second line presents to you what we wanted to see as the lion. The third line will be the bear, and the fourth line will be the leopard. And to be fair, I would like to show you the 10 horns of the 10 kings. And this is because that's where it all starts. So rather than starting as a regular basis, as I said, we have done that in chapter 7. We start with the lion and we go down to the fierce beast. Right now, we're going to do reverse. And we're going to do reverse with the chart as well. So come with me at the very bottom of the chart where you read the 10 horns. And we know the 10 horns are 10 kings according to the scripture. And the first king, which was in the past, as I said, from 800 to 814 AD, represent the united leaders under the United Europe. And those two leaders, the main leader at the time, were Germany and France. When we pass to the second king, or the second period of the Holy Roman Empire, after King Charlemagne, which was German, passed away in 814 AD, the second king, or the second kingdom, the one Holy Roman Empire, the second empire, would have been going on until 1798, based on the prophecy of Daniel 7:25. From 7, when we look at the king here, we go from 538 AD to 1798, and this is basically inclusive when we come to the empire. The Roman Empire started a little bit after the establishment of Rome as a civil and religious power. Not very long after, 538 AD, and then King Charlemagne established the Holy Roman Empire with the support of Rome, of course, in 800 AD. It is not complicated. Just bear with me. I'm going to try to make it as clear as possible, because if you follow in history, some of the detail that we're talking about here, because of the prophecy, especially the detail of the 1798 date, is missing in history. So therefore, we have here a very, very important application of prophecy combined with history, which is often a problem when you study prophecy in the light of history. The dates do not always match, because historians, no offense, do not have always the fact of the Bible. They do not base their research on the great controversy, which we will look in the future in that study, and they're lost. They do not always represent the time accurately. And this is a fact of history combined with prophecy. When it's history on its own, it can defend itself. But when you present it in the light of prophecy, taking into consideration the great controversy, these dates often do not match. The third king, which we have here, is the one that took place from 1933 to 1945. I'd like to remind you that the second king, again, under the united leaders of the Europe United was Germany and France. As you can see, it's not the first time that the European Union is attempted. The European Union was attempted many times in history, at least from 880, as you can see, to 814, and then 814 to 1798, and now from 1933 to 1945, again, Germany and France always are allied. Germany and France are allied. They're very close in geography, actually in Europe, so it's kind of natural that they're allied, but watch carefully because it is not always so. So the third king, which is under the Holy Roman Empire, that particular Holy Roman Empire lasted from 1933 to 1945. Before I go to the fourth king, I'd like to bring to you now the scenario and the actors that are involved into this whole Roman Empire and how important it is to place them at the right place. So we started with the 10 horns and the 10 kings at the base. Now we're going to go according to the prophecy, because the 10 horns and the 10 kings, according to even the picture that I have set up for you, is right lining up perfectly with that fierce beast at the bottom, with the big iron teeth and the big eyes, almost like human eyes looking at you. And Revelation 13 verse 2 is my base for this presentation. Therefore, when I go to the beast, the leopard beast of Revelation 13:2, which is supposed to be included in that particular verse, we have here the first king being Charlemagne from 800 to 814. In the second establishment of the Holy Roman Empire, Napoleon brought the end of that second kingdom in 1798 during the French Revolution, when the General Berthier took the Pope from Rome and brought it to France and made him a prisoner. And it's a fact of his story. It's actually the movement, it's actually the principal time that was brought in history for the Millerite to start with the Millerite movement in the 1800s. They recognized the prophecy being accomplished of the wound being inflicted on the beast in the book of Revelation. So now we have Napoleon, which was not part of the Holy Roman Empire. He actually brought an end to the second Holy Roman Empire. In the third time of the Holy Roman Empire, the king, the one who was playing the main role, now is no longer Charlemagne or Napoleon, but it's Adolf Hitler. And I will show you, be patient, I will show you a proof of that Adolf Hitler was actually from 1933 to 1939 proclaiming that he was to establish the Third Reich, or the Third Realm, or the Third Empire, which he connected directly with the Holy Roman Empire. And this is a fact of history and can be proven. And of course, we're talking about the Second World War here. Let's continue with the three kings for the moment, and let's go now to the bear. The bear, which has, and I will go in a minute with more detail, the bear which has the feet of a bear, the animals, the one that we see, the terrible animals, becomes with the leopard beast-like, and it has the feet of a bear, according to Revelation 13:2. Under the first Holy Roman Empire, which lasted from 800 to 814, Khazaria, which was the old name for Russia, was actually representative of the bear. The bear is also the emblem of Russia. The leopard actually was not the emblem of Germany, but during the Second World War, they had a certain tank, very, very important tank, very strong tank to do the war, and they were calling those tanks the Leopard. And many times Germany has represented themselves as the leopard. So here we have the leopard, we have Russia, here as the bear, and the third animal represented in the prophecy is the lions, the mouth of a lion. And of course, we know that England or Britain, or now called the UK. The Anglo-Saxon at the time of Charlemagne existed under the Holy Roman Empire, and also under the second king, Britain was also represented here. There was another representation as well, which the prophecy tells, the two wings that the lion had. We know that it also represents the speed of that kingdom, whenever in the past the historical facts were represented by Babylon. But it also represents United States of America, which was established within the time of the Second Holy Roman Empire in 1776. And we have the USA here, which actually comes from Britain, directly from Britain, and obtained its independence from Britain in 1776. So it fits also perfectly the prophecy that we read earlier in chapter 7 of Daniel, because it says about the lion that it had two wings, and those wings were plucked up, and it was lifted from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man. So the plucking up of those two wings is the independence of the United States, which became a great nation on its own. And in the third Holy Roman Empire, the third kingdom, or the third time that the Holy Roman Empire attempted to become again all over Europe, and this time under Germany, it was planning to go all over the world. We have here again the leopard beast-like, which we saw was represented by Hitler, the beast of Germany. We have Germany here, which is represented. The bear is again Russia, but this time it is called the Soviet Union. And the lion's mouth again is Britain with the USA, and you will find out soon how those fits all together. So quickly, the leopard, when you look at it from this point of view, has not changed very much, just like it expressed in the United Leaders of Germany and France for the four kingdom, the four Holy Roman Empire, the fourth one still to come. The leopard beast is Charlemagne, and yet Napoleon is not considered one of those kings, but it is still appeared in history under the French Revolution, because he was again under the France, during the French Revolution, he was under this kind of a representation. And then Hitler, again a German, appears during the Third Holy Roman Empire, which is not a coincidence, as you will see. And of course, Russia, which changed names, goes from Khazaria to Russia Empire to Soviet Union. It's still the same Russia that we know today at the same geographic area. And the lions goes from being the Anglo-Saxon to Britain to also combining now USA twice. And this is where we are during the Second World War. Let me introduce to you now the future application, because these are past. These are past. Those applications of the Holy Roman Empire are past. And the reason why I stand on the fourth Holy Roman Empire, or fourth king to arise, is because we have four beasts here that are definitely mentioned, but not only that, we have also the Third Reich during the Second World War that was definitely upheld very high from 1933 to 1939. And I will show you shortly what happened to this application. Now, the fourth king, or the Fourth Reich, if I may call it, which is applicable for today, again, we bring in the 10 horns, the 10 kings, which are basically the United Leaders of Europe under the European Union. And again, Germany and France, more than ever, even especially in 2017, we can see now how Germany and France have decided to take the lead of the European Union, and they want to bring themselves together with the rest of Europe to become a strong nation again, a strong power. The leopard-like beast will not change. And Germany is the leopard, and the wings of the fowl is France. And the reason for this is because France has also as its emblem, it has actually a rooster. That's their emblem. And it fits perfectly because, again, the leopard beast with the four wings, which carries France basically. Germany and France always stay together in this history. And then we have, again, the bear, Russia. And not too long ago, if you follow history, you know those three ribs now are Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova. And when you research it for yourself, you will come to agree with me that Russia, even from the Olympic in Ukraine, and not too long ago, since they were forced by Europe to take a strong stand to protect their back regarding the sea where they are doing traffic, they basically had to protect themselves, and they took over again Georgia and Moldova. Now, when we look at, again, the lion's mouth, we are sure that the eagle wings now is still the USA and the lion is Britain. Those are not only coincidence, they're actually, except for Germany, but as I explained, Germany has often taken the leopard as their emblem, but it is not official on their flags. But we know that definitely France as the rooster, as their animal, as their, we could say their country animal. The bear is Russia, the lion is Britain, and the eagle wings, because USA, their animals is the eagle. It fits perfectly, and yet it may not be sufficient to convince you of a Fourth Reich, which will come under this appearance as my first column on the right. Keep that in mind. I just wanted to propose it right now based on Revelation 13:2 as we go for the next step in our study. This particular article regarding the Third Reich, the Holy Roman Empire, and the swastika is to confirm what has been said earlier about Germany allying itself under the Holy Roman Empire. And this is actually taken from an article. The Nazi Party used the term Third Reich Empire and Thousand Years Reich Empire to describe the greater German ethnic empire they wished to forge. The term Third Reich referred to the Nazi recognition of former incarnation of important German realms while alluding to envisioned future prosperity and the new nation's alleged destiny. But on July 10, 1939, it was dropped from propaganda at Hitler's behest. The Holy Roman Empire, later with the appendage German nation, deemed the First Empire or First Reich, and I put N second here, had lasted almost 1,000 years, from 843 to 1806. As mentioned earlier, it is not unusual in history to change the dates slightly. We believe that the First and Second Empire, the First and Second Holy Roman Empire, went from 800 AD under Charlemagne until his death in 814, and then continued under many kings until 1798, when the Pope was taken away from Rome, brought to France, and we know then that the Holy Roman Empire, as it was known, and the Vatican, ceased to be a civil religious power for a number of years until 1929, when Mussolini reinstated the Vatican as a church and state government, as it is to this day. The term thousand-year realm or empire was used only briefly and also dropped from propaganda in 1939, officially to avoid mockery and possibly to even avoid religious connotation. Yet we know that the Roman Catholic Church was behind the Third Reich as in the past. In speeches, books, and articles about the Third Reich after May the 8th, 1945, the phrase has taken on a new meaning, and the early Nazi professions about a 1,000-year empire are often juxtaposed against the 12 years that the Third Reich actually existed. Upon its defeat, the Reich was in a state of debilation or dissolution and was replaced by occupation-zoned, administrated by France, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And please notice those four nations: France, Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, which is Britain, and the United States. And this was right after the Second World War. Note that the swastika has an extensive history. It was used at least 5,000 years before Adolf Hitler designed the Nazi flag. And so although we do not like to see that flag and the swastika, the word swastika in fact comes from the Sanskrit swastika, which means good fortune or well-being. The motif, which is a hook cross, appears to have first been used in Neolithic Eurasia, perhaps representing the movement of the sun through the sky. To this day, it is a sacred symbol in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Odinism.